On a crisp spring day in Suquamish, across the water from Seattle on the Kitsap Peninsula, an unusual amount of marine predator activity gives hints of something happening under the water's surface. The scene is immediately recognizable to those with ancestral knowledge of the region. It's herring spawning season in Puget Sound.
Yeah, herring is as important as salmon in a lot of ways. It's always been one of the cornerstone species.
Herring are a key piece of the ecological puzzle in Puget Sound, and were an important food source for indigenous tribes. But as the human population grew around them, their numbers plummeted.
We had been on a pretty long downward trend. We had some pretty large fisheries that have since been closed, partially in response to overfishing at the time. Some of our more iconic stocks have declined by over 99%. Some stocks have disappeared entirely. But just recently in 2020, we saw our second largest spawning event since the 1980s. It's a two-sided vegetation grapnel that we just drag to pick up samples of vegetation to check for eggs. There we go.
So we've got a bunch of sargassum as the algae, and a very heavy spawning event came through here. It's a good sign.
With commercial herring fishing mostly halted in Puget Sound, numbers seem to be rebounding. In fact, Phil and his team are tracking a new stock, or a group of fish that spawns together in a specific area, that are spawning on beaches right near downtown Seattle. Scuba diver and filmmaker Laura James was one of the first to notice a spawning event off Alki Point in 2017.
So we were out here diving one day and we were coming back up from a dive, and I noticed there were herring eggs. My dive buddy and I went on a little adventure around the point, and we just started walking and documenting where we saw herring eggs. And it turned out there were literally herring eggs from basically down by Cove 2, maybe a couple miles away from here, all the way down to Lincoln Park.
Scientists have taken to calling this new stock the Elliott Bay stock.
It's sort of one of the more interesting stocks because it's both our newest stock, which is exciting, but also it hasn't really settled on a preferred spawning area. So we've seen it at the Sculpture Park, we've seen it at Alki Beach.
So far, in 2023, the Elliott Bay stock hasn't turned up in its usual spawning grounds. Or if it did, it went undetected. This points to the need for more citizen observers to keep an eye out for herring spawning events. Laura uses the West Seattle blog community to help notify her of activity off Alki.
I'll literally say, hey everybody, could you watch the shoreline and email me? Like literally email me personally if you see crazy activity along the shoreline.
Another visible sign of herring, which Laura was able to capture in these aerial shots, is whitewater.
And it's essentially so much eggs and milk in the water that it'll actually turn the water milky. And so that combination of whitewater and a lot of predator activity is what you can expect to see.
So, indications are that things are looking up for our Puget Sound herring. Back here in Suquamish, the tribe is celebrating the return of spawning events like this one that haven't been seen in a generation.
I mean, our fishermen today haven't, especially the younger ones, have never been in a herring fishery because there hasn't been a harvest full of numbers. It's been a while since we've seen large returns that you can actually notice.
We're cautiously optimistic that we're sort of turning the corner, and conditions have allowed us to have a couple of good year classes and hopefully to start to see an increasing trend in our herring biomass.
Cautious optimism sums it up well. A growing population of herring and other forage fish would be a welcome sign for some of the better-known species in the region, since they are a key piece of the ecosystem that supports larger animals like salmon and orcas.
Herring in particular are critical as food for salmon, but they also act as a prey buffer for salmon. So we've learned that forage fish actually will help reduce the predation on juvenile salmon from things like harbor seals and sea lions.
The Elliott Bay stock, in particular, can be seen as a sign that efforts to improve our natural habitat in the city are having their intended effect.
Where we first found it, near the sculpture park, there was an effort there to ensure that there was some structure for habitat. So I think it is a sign that if we're thoughtful about how we're doing our development and try to maintain some of those key habitat features in the water, these fish will take advantage of it.
This is a brilliant natural event occurring so close to a major metropolis. I mean, how many places can you have forage fish eggs being laid literally with a city skyline in the background? It's amazing.
Amazing indeed. Another small reminder that Seattle is at the doorstep of the Salish Sea's diverse marine ecosystem.
Watch CityStream Tuesday nights at 7 on the Seattle channel, or find us anytime online at seattle.gov.